This is eTurbo News in Honolulu with our daily breaking news show. Please stay tuned.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the CTO IATA Caribbean Aviation Day closing press conference. I'm Donna Bush. Welcome to you again. First, we'd like to call in Mr. Peter Serta, the Regional Vice President for the Americas IATA. I have to mention up front that Mr. Serta has to leave early for a flight, so he will take your questions immediately following his remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. And I don't have the leverage to be able to delay flights. You'll have to excuse me that I'll have to depart. But first of all, good morning, good afternoon to everyone. I wish to, first of all, extend my sincerest thanks to the Caribbean Tourism Organization and obviously the government of Cayman for being gracious hosts during these past few days. Certainly, I leave with a heavy heart that I have to leave today and I'll stay a few more days because of the great hospitality that has been offered. Certainly, without the partnership of these organizations and the government, certainly these type of events are never successful. And I do believe, certainly over the last day, we have had a very successful, productive day with our government and industry partners. And with that, I do want to provide a recap of the outcomes of yesterday with a few remarks, and then I will be very happy to answer some questions. Across the Caribbean, tourism and aviation, as you know, are independent to a very high degree. The one cannot exist without the other. Prior to the pandemic, we jointly contributed 13.9% of GDP and 15.2% of all jobs in the region. And as our sector is recovering from the effects of COVID-19, we would like to regain and even surpass this level. It's our expectation that the region and the industry continue to grow in a very proactive manner in the years to come. But in order to achieve the ambitious goals that we do have, we need to work jointly across the entire value chain. And those of you that were at our conference yesterday, you could see the very highly debated conversations that we had. We fully need to reestablish the connectivity that to, from, and within. That's the #1 priority that we have as an industry. We need to improve intra-regional connectivity, which was a major discussion yesterday as a key factor in supporting the expansion of multi-destination tourism, but also the importance of being able to move for social and economic reasons within the Caribbean community. We need to be able to provide a seamless travel experience by eliminating the antiquated policies which are slowing down not only airline operations, but making the travel experience for passengers much less convenient than it should be. And we need to become much more cost competitive in the operating environment. And also we spoke extensively about that lowering taxes and fees. I made it very clear the industry is not asking for handouts, nor do we expect infrastructure to be paid by itself. But what we are looking for is for a competitive environment in a transparent and equitable manner. Some facts: the WTTC forecasts that between this year and next year, 2023, the Caribbean can experience a 6.7% increase in travel and tourism GDP, as long as the right policies and framework are put into place. From an aviation standpoint, we are ready to play our part. We want to be a contributor. We want to be part of the recovery. We want to be a catalyst and a strong strategic partner of the governments within the Caribbean. Why? Because it is necessary for social and economic well-being and recovery of the Caribbean. And with that, I will say thank you once again. I am open for questions and happily, hopefully I'll be able to answer them. Yes?
Thank you so much. My name is Janet Silvera. I'm with the Gleaner newspaper in Jamaica. Coming out of the conversations that you had yesterday, then, because this is a conversation that has been happening for years, where you're asking for the taxes to be reduced. Are you hopeful that something could be reached in relation to your ask?
I am very hopeful that it will take place. I am very hopeful that we will see more, let's say, taxation imposed on the industry which meets or abides by global standards in terms of percentage. If you were in my session, I did ask all the states that were represented, would they sit down and begin to discuss the possibility of reducing the taxes. The 5 participants by representatives of their countries all stated yes. So my expectation with my team is that we will sit down with the Caribbean countries individually to see how we can obtain a win-win for the government and its people and for the industry to further expand connectivity in the region. But we do have to bring down the levels of taxation that we have right now, which far exceed the global average.
Jürgen Steinmetz with eTurbo News. I'm wondering, Caribbean, with many major US airlines playing probably the most dominant role in arrival, but also many small carriers and national carriers. Yesterday we heard from the minister from Bahamas saying, so if we don't get the tourists, we go and get them because we have a national airline. And then connectivity within the islands through some regional carriers. How could this be better coordinated, that small carriers have a better link to the big carriers in cooperating and building a real infrastructure of a network here in the Caribbean and from and to the Caribbean?
It's a lot of questions.
Yes. You got 2 hours.
I think one thing is clear, this stigma that we don't have Caribbean carriers in the region, we need to get over that. We do have Caribbean carriers in the region. They're not all small. And I think that's a significant achievement. No US carrier does it. So Cayman is doing it. So, it's difficult to compete against US and European carriers. But that's you go to Latin America, it's the same case. You go to Africa, it's the same case. You go to Asia. But the national carriers bring value. They bring a niche. It is pride as well for a country or the airline, regardless if it's private or government owned. What we have to do is we have to have a strategy. We have to have a vision to move forward. Someone, I think you mentioned it. This is our 4th aviation day that we do. And they're always very well attended, very well supported by the government. I have to say, all around the world, the number of ministers that we receive that participate, there's no region better than the Caribbean. And I give a lot of credit to the ministers that do take the time to sit down with the industry and discuss the opportunity. We don't always agree, but there is. But I think what we have to do better now is really do it. It is really now, I said it yesterday,
Just do it.
just do it. We just have to begin to do it. carriers, providing the right connectivity, that's perfectly fine too.
Now, when you can,
Sorry, do we have time for one final
Oh,
question?
our slide's late.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Sorry, I'd like to just add a component. Might be missing. What we're seeking is a and that's how access and connectivity can be appreciated. Now, affordable travel is not just about the tax component, but it's also the efficiencies that come from the carrier. Can you comment on that?
Yeah.
Because that's a mix that we make.
It is, and it's a very fair point. The more attractive that you make your island for more competition, the lower the price is going to be. I won't get into, if one airline is charging $900, the other one,
Right.
you know,
So
200.
these are the issues. When it's $900 from Cayman
Yeah.
to Miami, where's the tax component on that?
But when you look at
And
it,
the efficiencies that the airlines have a responsibility to
absolutely.
enable this affordability.
Absolutely, but we do work on, we charge what the customer is willing to pay, and we base on the demand. But I will say one thing, if you get more airlines competing here, you will see. I will say very clearly here, how many low-cost airlines do you see landing in Cayman?
I'm only making
No, but
the balance has to be there.
It is.
There's the taxation
Absolutely.
on one side, and then there is the yield revenue.
Absolutely. But I guarantee you one thing. You get a low-cost airline to come in here, it's a game changer. So it's how you want to market your country, your tourism, and then who comes in. So it comes down to that, and you see it. We see
We're
it.
one though, we're partners.
Yeah, no, absolutely. but it is a very fair question. It is a very
travel.
It is, and that's what we should be looking for: affordable travel. Absolutely.
Can we talk about how this really, as Janet mentioned, we've been talking about this for years, and as the minister's pointing out, there's responsibility on both sides. How did this situation come about? I mean, how did the Caribbean become such a high-cost air sector over these years? If we know maybe how it happened, we can start to talk about changes.
Well, it's you can't get to the Caribbean by rail. You can't get, people don't come by boat, and you certainly can't drive. So air transportation is basically the only way to get in here.
Is it, as the minister said, the suppliers kind of pushing the price to what the market will bear beyond?
It is. We also have to remember, if you look at what the price is today, it wasn't the price of this before pandemic. If we go back, the pricing was very different. If you look at now what airlines are paying for fuel, for example, it's today 60% of their operation. If you add staff, employees, your margins are very, very small. So it's not something we can say, help. We have countries around the world that are helping with fueling discounts. Doesn't happen everywhere. So to fill up a 737 or an A320 to fly here, it's quite expensive to fly. Someone is going to have to bear that price. Now, if we were looking 2-3 years ago when the price of fuel was different, or the economic situation was different, we were talking about a different price. But it also comes down to competition. I mean, if you look at pricing throughout the Caribbean, you're going to see different markets with different prices. And that's a reality. It takes 1 hour and 20 minutes to fly here from Miami. It's the same flight time to Cancun. Look at the competition between Miami and Cancun, and look at between Miami and Cayman. Just as an example of fairness. So, and it happens throughout the same thing. Or you go north. So, I mean, it's the same airplane, you're using the same fuel.
Right.
But it is much more complex than just say, you put a price, a deal. There's a lot more with that.
Well, Peter, I was hoping not to intervene to allow you to get the questions in, but I think that I should, just for the opportunity of the conversation. This conference was about the CTO and IATA,
yes.
Right? And Peter represents the airlines and the aviation industry. sure if my mic is on, but I'm quite sure everybody can hear me.
Yeah.
But my point was quite simple, that we've had some discussions, we've recognized that there are some issues that we are going to address, and I'm going to wear the hat as the chairman at this point on behalf of the members that are a part of this organization. And some things as chairman that I'll be commissioning is, how do we react to that request? I think IATA should formally put a request to the CTO to say, here are some of the things that we'd like to see. So my colleagues and I can have a proper analysis, how it affects them, pros and cons, and we could respond. This is all a part of finding solutions to the connectivity issues. And obviously we're going to put it on the agenda at the next available time for us to discuss it, to say what needs to be done. Of course, the airlines are going to say to reduce pricing, but each one of our members have responsibilities, and they have to look at that in its totality. I must say, though, that I'm not sure my minister gave a commitment to reduced fees, because I was there.
Committed to discuss.
Committed to discuss that. But let me clarify that for my local media.
Which to me, I think that's a very good first step.
That's a very good first step. And as chairman, not only for the Cayman Islands, but chairman for the region and our members of the organization, I can give that commitment that we will be discussing that and hopefully have another update at the next CTO meeting, that we can collaborate with IATA, because the most important thing is that we're committed to finding solutions.
And I will say, we gave the example of Cartagena. The issue of Cartagena was not one that was a unilateral decision. It was a decision which was done jointly between the industry, with the municipality, with the government, with the airport, to work jointly for a win-win. And there was agreements on, if we reduce, what's the probability of gaining more connectivity? And the connectivity came. It wouldn't have helped by reducing just the charges and no one coming to Cartagena.
Right.
That would have been a loss for everyone. The gain here was everyone won. While you reduced the charges slightly, you were able to gain more financially, because you have more airlines flying, bring more tourists, who ultimately spent more in the community, and the airport gained as well.
I'm wondering, maybe something completely out of the box, but I'm just wanted to see what you think, and I know that you haven't discussed this. But when I look, as someone who's not from the Caribbean, I live in Hawaii, at the Caribbean map, you see many of the islands are quite close together. I mean, it's really no distance. You don't really need an airplane to go there. When I see in Hawaii our super ferry that failed because of environmental issues, not because of practical issues, and when I see that Star Alliance is now having a member, what's a railroad company in Germany, they could have a railroad company of some kind of a super ferry that maybe operates between the islands where it's feasible to operate and feed into regional airline hubs. Do you see something this could be?
I don't represent the so maybe the minister has more on the inter-island connectivity. Obviously, it occurs in many parts of the world where you do. Again, I believe that aviation can provide the needed service to cross, even though short distances, at a price that is viable for its citizens in those communities. So it's being done in many parts. It's done very successfly in Hawaii.
No, it hasn't been done in Hawaii.
Aviation, yes.
And no. Our airfares went from $39 inter-island to $169, $200 on an average, what made it impossible for families to see families on another island. Kama'aina rates, local rates were, but we're getting to different subjects, were eliminated when Hawaiian Airlines paid attorneys to get the super ferry off the market. But maybe it's, there are other things. I know you don't know all the ins and outs.
I wouldn't know the ins and outs of, the airline business trying to get the ferries out.
Right.
Anyway, the ferries is an issue, a maritime issue. But in my opinion, and that's part of the discussion we had yesterday, is how do you improve intra-regional connectivity? And that's what we should be looking for. That's what we should be striving. If there's other alternative means that do come about, even better, because you have more competition. But right now, this is what we have, and this is what we're striving to try to make better.
it's a legitimate question, and I think that probably the CTO would be better prepared to respond to as we analyze it. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of analysis of what do we do now moving forward, what are our options, and it's a very good question. There's different types of transportation. IATA is here to represent the aviation community and members. That's something that within our connectivity dream and vision that would be led by the Honorable Minister Bartlett, that we can talk about that. Maybe a Caribbean ferry system, you know, because you were right, there's a lot of islands that are really close, and maybe planes are not necessarily the option, because you can't have very large planes going up for 30 minutes and come back down. It's not cost efficient and effective. So all of these options are things that within our organization that we have to examine. One of the first meetings with Director General this morning was discussing about serving our members. What do we want? What do we hope to accomplish? And once we analyze that feedback on the individual basis of their own countries, we can find the commonalities and see where the low-hanging fruits are first, and then address them there.
Any more questions? Okay with that?
Thank you very much. You can ask all the hard questions.
Collaborate. Yes. We will certainly get it done.
Safe travels. Next, I'd like to introduce Mr. Neil Walters, the Secretary General of the Caribbean Tourism Organization. Mr. Walters.
Good afternoon, all. Thanks very much for being here. This has been a very interesting week for the CTO. A lot of activities, and you just heard basically the roundup of what occurred yesterday at Caribbean Aviation Day. On Tuesday, we had our business meetings, and I want to say congratulations to the new chairman of the CTO Council of Ministers and Commissioners of Tourism, the Honorable Kenneth Bryan, the Minister for Tourism and Transport from the Cayman Islands. He will be serving as the chairman of that body for the period 2022 to 2024. On the same vein, Mrs. Rosa Harris, the Cayman Islands Director for Tourism, will be the chairman of the board of directors for the same period. And so we will be working very closely with the Cayman Islands to roll out some of the initiatives Minister Bryan was just speaking about. We also want to say thank you to the outgoing chair, Chairman Senator the Honorable Lisa Cummins of Barbados. She has been at the helm during a very difficult time for all of us, and especially the organization, and we want to thank her for helping guide us through what has been a very difficult period. And my last role, really, before I hand over to Minister Bryan, is to say thank you to the people of the Cayman Islands, the people of the government of the Cayman Islands, for hosting this week of events. And I think all of us will agree that it was a wonderfully planned and executed set of events, and thank them for the hospitality they've shown us. I think I was speaking to one of our members of staff on Monday, and she said, they set the bar so high, you don't even know what's going to happen with the events. You usually do. But I want to say thank you. It is a milestone for the CTO, because it is our first face-to-face event since the start of the pandemic. And it has been very productive, and I think Minister Bryan will go on now to take you through some of the items that we'll be looking at over his time. With the permission of the chair, I'll go back to you, Minister Bryan.
Thank you so much, Neil, and pleasant good morning or good afternoon to everyone. Via social media and here in the audience. It's a pleasure to have you join me here at the Ritz-Carlton Grand Cayman. This has been a very significant week for a number of reasons, particularly as a British overseas territory. Our islands and our people are officially mourning the death of our monarch during what has been the most iconic year for her. Her Royal Jubilee, which celebrated 70 years on the throne. So it's been a bittersweet moment, because as we endure the sorrow of the loss of our Queen Elizabeth II, we also have to commemorate the events which have joyfully brought our Caribbean brothers and sisters together here in the Cayman Islands after 2.5 long years of dealing with COVID. This week, I, along with my colleagues within the Cayman Islands government, my ministry, my Department of Tourism staff, welcome the members of the Caribbean Tourism Organization, and the International Air Transport Association, as you heard from Peter earlier, to host a series of meetings and networking opportunities and events. This forum has placed tourism and aviation at the forefront of regional discussions and decision making, and it will allow us to have further sharing of information and ideas. Also, you heard in the line of questioning earlier. This week included destination media briefings where my counterparts and I presented updates on visiting local and regional media on the state of tourism within our individual countries. We also heard from some of the top minds in aviation, in the aviation industry, who discussed the most pressing issues affecting their region, and some of that had to do with fees and taxes and money, such as multi-destination tourism, the role of the private sector in financing intra-regional travel, and maximizing the social and economic value of aviation within the Caribbean. All of these discussions revolved around the basic need for communities as it relates to air transportation and the safe movement of people. We are here to serve the people, and we're enabling key discussions with decision makers to engage in dialogue and focus on the possibilities of economic prosperity. We can forge common visions for the recovery of tourism and aviation within the Caribbean amongst our members. During the CTO's business meetings held on the 13th of September, elections were held and a new chairman has been selected for the Council of Ministers and Commissioners of Tourism, and I'm happy and honored to take post. I'm honored to be selected as a chairman and will serve for a term of 2 years, as you heard by the Director General, per the Constitution. Whichever country sits in the chair, you also heard Neil say that our Director of Tourism, my amazing Rosa Harris, will also be the chair of Board of Directors. This means that the Cayman Islands Director of Tourism, Ms. Rosa Harris, will be there from 2022 to 2024 with me. With 23 years of dedicated tourism experience, Rosa is surely qualified to lead the CTO Board of Directors. She has a strong leadership qualities that are necessary and a proven track record of delivering results. That's why the Cayman Islands do so well. Rosa has served as the Cayman Islands Director of Tourism for over 8 years and over 3 terms and 3 different ministers, and hasn't been moved, and that should tell you a lot. She has a deep understanding of the CTO organization, which will be a tremendous help to me as a new minister and a new chairman. She has great networking abilities, particularly, and friendships across the region. So I'm very happy, and I welcome Rosa to the new chair of the CTO Board of Directors, and I'm confident that she'll be able to be an excellent leader. At the Council of Ministers meeting, the Honorable Evan Bartlett, Minister of Tourism for Jamaica, was selected to lead a steering committee mandated to elaborate on the strategic direction and guiding principles of our organization. The steering committee will also have participation from Ministers of Tourism for Bahamas, Dominica, Belize, and Barbados. The CTO Council has also agreed to partner with the Global Tourism Resilience and Crisis Management Center in organizing the first Global Tourism Resilience Conference from the 15th to the 17th of February 2023 in Kingston, Jamaica, which will commemorate the first Global Tourism Resilience Day on the 17th of February, and also an African Caribbean Tourism Summit for the first time in our history. As the CTO chairman, my vision for the organization is to work with the members to reshape the organization to be more aligned with their needs and their expectations. I see the CTO as an organization that should bring economic benefit to the region and to its membership. of which I am the chairman. It therefore needs to be a change. It needs to be a change agent that will increase the attention and the visitation to the member states' tourism arrivals, which will also drive economic activity for their country. To underpin these goals, some restructuring may need to occur, and I would say more so has to occur, in order to improve functionality and efficiency of the organization. I also intend to address the question of outstanding fees and the development of a sustainable funding model going forward. As you would have heard from the discussions yesterday, the question of multi-destination tourism is a hot topic that I intend to look into much more closely to identify the possibilities as well as looking at opportunities for servicing emerging markets. We have a lot of work to do at a regional level, and I'm up for the challenge and the task. I would like now to congratulate the winner of the 2022 Regional Tourism Youth Congress, and please forgive me if I mess your name up, Janine Barth. Don't worry, I'm going to introduce her personally very shortly. I don't want to ruin it, but she's an amazing young lady from Tobago. And matter of fact, you come right up here and sit here. I want all the media in the world to see you. She attended the Signal Hill Secondary School in Tobago. An amazing job. This morning, we were blessed to witness 11 young people from around the Caribbean passionately debate on tourism-related issues affecting them, impacting their cultures and their communities. The Youth Congress took place earlier today, and all of the representatives, including Cayman's own Rayanne Matute Scott, showcased a level of talent that must be praised. My fellow tourism ministers and I can sit comfortably knowing that these young people will one day carry the torch. I will encourage them to continue to work hard, embrace new ideas, work against the grain if you have to build a better region and strive forward with regional connectivity. In closing, this was a week of first and history-making moments. I have enjoyed hosting all of you, and I thank you all for making the trip and taking the time out to work together to identify all the challenges we face around the region. And that includes you, the media, because you help us with that solution. As you can hear, some of the media was even giving us answers to how to solve the problems. We truly can be the catalyst for change when we work together, sharing the solutions on key tourism-related issues that we all face. I hope you all have enjoyed your time here with us in our beautiful home, because we have enjoyed hosting each and every one of you. I wish to take a few minutes to offer my sincere appreciation to the management and the staff of this host hotel, the Ritz-Carlton Grand Cayman, for living up to the Cayman brand of hospitality that we're known for throughout the world. As the Minister with responsibility for tourism and transport, I wouldn't be a good tourism ambassador if I didn't give my own home a shameless plug. Overall, it has truly been a great experience for me to have witnessed the professionalism of our great men and women who work to serve our visitors day in and day out. I want to thank the other partnering hotels and properties, Westin, the Hampton by Hilton, Sunshine Suites Resorts, and the Grand Cayman Marriott, as well as our national airline, Cayman Airways, who offered discounted conference rates to our delegates. Lastly, to all my park administration members and colleagues, volunteers, the members of the protocol office, staff at the Department of Tourism and the Ministry of Tourism, I wish to thank you all so much for all the hard work. I've heard so many great, amazing responses from people who are saying they've enjoyed themselves. After 2 years of not being able to see each other, the first one was so vital, and I'm so glad to be the minister on behalf of those hard-working Caymanians that you may not even recognize, but there was so much work put into this. And with all that being said, it's a part of our vision as a Cayman brand, as well as going into the CTO organization to spread what we do in Cayman, hopefully across the region, and bring that vision to the CTO. And I want to also thank Peter and his team for their collaboration and discussions on the panel. With that being said, I thank you all so much, and God bless you. Before I move on, let me just allow this young lady to say her name properly. Let me give properly a word. I want to say firstly, congratulations to you, and tell them, just give them 30 seconds about who you are and how was the conference and how did you feel about it?
Hi, good day everyone. I am Jenny Brathwaite. I'm the Junior Secretary for Tourism on the beautiful island of Tobago. So the sentence about me, I'm going to make this really quick. I'm really quite passionate about our culture and tourism industry within Tobago. I've witnessed the movement that my government has been making towards developing our tourism industry further. I do congratulate our Secretary for Tourism, Ms. Tashia Boris. I know that she's making a lot of strides towards developing the industry, definitely. What I might say, Tobago has a lot of offer to our visitors. We are known for having the oldest rainforest reserve in the Western Hemisphere. And we are, in addition to this, we also have our brain coral, which is the largest brain coral in the world, might I add. Yes, so with that being said, like Tobago, we really do have a lot of things to offer, and I think that being given this chance at the table with the other Caribbean islands, we have the opportunity to showcase what we have to offer to the visitors. We had the opportunity to show that we have a voice as well, and that we have a lot of things to offer to the visitors. I believe that in being given this opportunity, it really allows me to encourage the younger persons within my island to step up and realize that they do have a part within the tourism industry, and that they too can make a change within the tourism industry that I plan on making a change in. I believe that youth are definitely the future of the world. They are definitely the future of the world. They are definitely going to make change. They are, I might say, they have an extent of innovative ideas to bring to the table, and they can definitely improve the industry that we have here and that we are moving towards developing. So, thank you.
Thank you. Country, congratulations to you. Your countrymen and women should be truly proud. I'm going to take you out of that hot seat right there, so some difficult questions are going to come. But again, one more.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bryan, and congrats to the young lady. The floor is now open for questions from Mr. Bryan, as well as Mr. Walters.
No questions? Oh,
there are, CTO has traditionally been the key, certainly for us journalists, with statistical data and the overall picture of tourism and travel to the region, and hopefully that will continue under the changes that you are, making. And do you also envision, there are several islands within the region that are not members of CTO, and important islands, big islands. Do you envision those countries, more of those countries becoming part of the membership?
I do. I strongly do, actually. Funny is the Caribbean Tourism Organization, but there's some members who are not a part of the organization. I don't know what the history is as to why they're not, but I definitely will be investigating that. And maybe that has a little bit to do with why we're reshaping it. Talking about efficiency, what does it offer, what's the return of investment, because this is an organization that is put together to help facilitate the attention necessary with the services and offerings within the member states. So my hope and goal would be to start focusing on reshaping it. What would we become, and what we will be able to offer, then go back to or go to those who have never been gone to before, or those who were member states before, and say, listen, different organization now, different structure, different value and return would you want to be considered to be a part of this? One of the things that I also want to strengthen is the union of members, understanding the importance of being a part of an organization. Only when they buy into it can it become stronger and they be committed. This organization is functioned and built on the basis of fees contributed. And it's difficult for members to give fees to an organization if they're not sure if they're getting a return for it, for the value. So we need to build an organization to say this is the one that you want to invest in because it will help you bring more people so you can have more jobs and opportunities and taxes for your people. So to answer that question, yes, but it's going to take some time to reshape that. The confidence in the organization needs to be rebuilt, particularly after a time when we've gone through COVID, as well as other members are dealing with the difficulties of their own budgets and their own priorities. So that's something I intend to address. I think Neil was going to add. No?
Yeah, I could add in terms of the stats for sure.
Yeah,
that is an area that is one of CTO's main planks, and that will not go away. Actually, we're looking at improving the type of information we share and looking at ways to make the information more timely and more relevant to what you all want, right? And generally for our members, of course, to make decisions in terms of their own national tourism plans, etc.
We definitely appreciate those.
Thank you very much. I would like to find out if you at least have an idea of how well the tourism sector has done in the region in the last, say, 6 months. What are our numbers looking like? Everybody has spoken about recovery. But what are those numbers? Does the CTO have those numbers as yet?
Yes, we do. Actually, our director of staff statistics is here, of research is here. The CTO has noted in our information gathering that the growth that we would have seen in the region from about the middle of last year has continued, probably not at the same level that it did originally, but definitely the Caribbean is one of the leading regions in terms of recovery around the world. We were, for the first 6 months of last year, at the top. I think since this year started, some other regions it's been repositioned, but I think we're in the top 3 at this point in time, subject to correction, in terms of recovery. The reality is, and I think this was mentioned several times yesterday, because of being a region where varying members have had various recoveries, we are looking at the potential for, certainly by the time we get to the end of the year, to have a lot more members of our countries coming very, very close to where they were in 2019, and in some cases exceeding. But I believe some hard real numbers will be published very shortly, and they will be definitely available for you to look at.
CNS?
Thank you, Minister. 2 very quick questions. I'm going to ask you to talk to Cayman Minister on. There's been some criticisms already on social media, I'm sure you've seen them, about your suggestions over the last couple of days about eliminating visas for improving this interconnection, and also what benefit that would have for the Cayman Islands, and also the same thing with dual destination tourism. Those seem to be things that people here don't seem very keen on. That's the one question. So I'll let you answer that first, and then I've got another very quick one about the taxes.
Maybe you should just put them all at the table.
Well, okay, the taxes. I heard you say that the minister that Minister Saunders had said that he hadn't agreed to reducing any taxes, that he was agreeing to talk about it. But what would I think people would be concerned about is that, I mean, you yourself talk about it in your speech. You say barring any catastrophes after the event. Well, we've got a catastrophe coming up, and that's climate change. And you know, the aviation industry needs to pay in terms of travellers. If you're travelling, we depend on the Environmental Protection Fund here from travellers. So I think people would need some reassurance that that is not going to be something that you would even consider reducing. In fact, we want to put it up, I'd say. And as far as other countries are concerned in the Caribbean, it's the same problem for them. They're facing climate change disaster the same as we are. And taxes that's a good way to raise your environmental. So I'd like you to make some comment on those 2 issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wendy. Taxes, border, visa issues, what was the other one?
The dual destination tourism.
Dual destination.
And visas, how will that benefit came out, and then never mind cutting the entire Environmental Protection Fund type taxes, why are we increasing it?
Thank you so much, Wendy. In respect to the taxes, I agree that, and this is me as Minister of Tourism for the Cayman Islands, we definitely have to examine what is the pros and cons to that. There is merit in the suggestion that if you make it cheaper, airlines will increase visitation. That's just simple business principles. But there is a level where you get to where you start to be the loser. And as you heard me say yesterday in the panel discussions, we also have to examine what the airlines is putting forward. It can't be only on the member states. But we don't want, I think it'd be not futile for us to dwell too much on the potential negative components before we have the dialogue. Because one of the things I would like to see happen is CTO as an organization, IATA as an organization, coming together and sitting down behind closed doors where the contentious issues that we are concerned about can be flushed out. Because it may be different in different member states. So I hope to do that. And Cayman individually have to have that discussion as well. Sadly, one of the diagrams that was in discussion yesterday by the Ms. Dukerin, I think was kind of misleading because it showed taxes, but it didn't say by which country. It did say what country, but it said for one flight. But there's 2 countries that have the conclusion of that amount. And to be totally honest with you, Cayman is one of the lowest ones. And I'm proud to say that, because we do believe that the lower you bring the price, the easier it is for airlines to come and stay committed to Cayman. So we understand that proposal, but to give you that commitment today, it takes not only me as minister, but my government colleagues to have that decision. Because those fees that we collect are for important things like the infrastructure of the airport and even the environmental concerns that we have. In respect to border visas, I've heard the comments in respect to locally how people feel about the freedom of that visa concept. I think there's a misunderstanding locally as to what the intent of it is, but also recognize that there has been no agreement yet. It's something that we are having discussions about, something that would possibly be necessary to allow multi-destination tourism to happen easier. Majority of the people that visit our jurisdiction usually don't have any immigration troubles either. It's just probably rather than saying going to an immigration officer, if you come from these countries and so forth, you don't have to clear it. Like you can just bypass that. But we'll have further discussions, and the Honorable Minister Bartlett is well guided and experienced to help us through that discussions. And obviously we'll have the technocrats out there with each individual country to give us their concerns before any conclusion. So I would want to speak from a CTO perspective. In respect to locally, we have to recognize that this concept of multi-destination tourism is for tourists. I think much of the concern was coming from other Caribbean islands residents coming to our jurisdiction. It's not about somebody from St. Lucia being able to freely come to the Cayman Islands without any visa requirements. This is about for visitors. So for example, if we had somebody coming from New York, coming to the Cayman Islands, if they've passed through our rigid system, I think that when we have a partnership with the other Caribbean islands, we'll have to examine each other's border control measures to say we agree to a certain standard so you feel comfortable if they pass through one first through point that you don't have to worry about it because they're coming from us.
Can I just clarify, because I was asking more about what the benefit is to Cayman of dual destination.
Okay, I was going to get to the benefit of the dual destination. I'm just trying to deal with the visa part first. All right, so from that concept, I want people to understand this is not about the people who live within the islands, but the visitors who come to the island to make it more efficient for them. Okay, now let's get into the dual destination benefit. I'm not sure, Wendy, if you were available at the panel discussion yesterday, but one of the key points that I emphasized on is if you look at the numbers of visitors to the Caribbean region, in isolation, you may go, well, okay, if somebody is going somewhere else, that there's a reduction in Cayman visitation, and that's not totally true. The truth is there's a lot more people who want to come to the Caribbean, but because of the lack of efficiencies and connectivities, they can't come. So we can technically actually increase our numbers. Yes, Cayman does very well on its own because we have an amazing stable economy. We have an amazing Department of Tourism. We've had governments after governments not making tourism political. So we've been very successful. But not other countries has had that benefit. We think with our leadership and our viewpoints into the CTO that we can help show where that benefit is. Because as Minister of Tourism for Cayman, I have no intention of the numbers going down. And as Minister, as the Chairman for CTO, I intend to increase the numbers for everybody. And it can be done. So I want to leave that there.
I like that what you just said. You're really good already with your second head. But I'm interested to learn more about the task group under the leadership of the Honorable Edmund Bartlett. That seems to be a good way of cutting through the chase and maybe get things done and moving, what is so necessary. You see what had happened at the UNWTO with the task group under the Saudi and Spanish leadership. Hopefully that's going to work too, but is this something similar?
Well, one of the main reasons why he was selected as chairman is because of his experience, understanding what the Caribbean region have gone through before in previous stints, like say for instance when we were trying to do I'm not a cricket fan, what's it called again? World Cup. The World Cup, not 2007. That was a cricket?
Yes.
Okay, I'm a basketball fan, sorry. and don't penalize me for that, please. But you need a member who has that experience and guidance to know what has happened before, what didn't work before, to guide a team of members who are now younger, who has the energy and the commitment to get it done. That's why we've asked him to
No, I have no doubt. That wasn't really what I meant. I meant more, what is this task force about? What are they?
The task force is about examining what the pros and cons are to getting multi-destination tourism, for us to come back to the council of members and look at it and says, here's what we have to do and whether we want to choose to do this or not. One of the things that needs to be thought about is that maybe not everybody might be on board. Everybody has their own individual country's concerns. But I believe that there is a large percentage of people who want to be a part of this, that this is going to get started, even if other members come later on. I have to highlight the hard work that Minister Bartlett has done so far, where he's gone to emerging markets and getting commitment already without even the CTO being involved. You've seen where Barbados and their minister have gone out and get an arrangement with other airlines. Those are coming from emerging markets, which will feed into what you call, I like to term it as hub locations. Now it's about, listen, I can bring people from other places, and they're not all going to stay in Jamaica. They're not all going to stay in Barbados, St. Lucia, Grenada, Guyana. Do you want some of them? This is how we have to work, because the other part that needs to be recognized is, particularly in our concept, we have 700 rooms available. If we get one more person than that, we don't need them. That sounded bad. Don't quote me on that. We want them, but every country only has a certain amount of room stock. And I'm saying that the people who want to travel to our amazing region is more than we have for room stock. So you may have a situation where so many people are coming, we'd be like, I don't mind if my neighboring country gets some of that, because there's that amount of attention on our region. We just have to be able to be working together, coordinated, to make sure everybody benefits from it. I really think that we're thinking too much of the negatives rather than what the positives are. And if it doesn't work, we'll continue to promote our country and our region as it is. But we have to give it the opportunity, and that's what this is about. And I think Minister Bartlett is the perfect individual to guide that discussion. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What's the timeline on that? Like, how soon do you actually expect
Funny
to
you say that, because I
implement?
was just talking about that, and I don't know if Minister Bartlett's ears is burning, but I'm the chairman of the CTO, and I expect him and his team to come back to us by January with some sort of, I'm dead serious, because we have to change the culture on the timing of things within this organization. Politicians like to do a lot of talking, I'm not, but in order for me to show actions, in order for actions to be done, we have to get the work done. So we have our first meeting in October. We want to formulate the vision and the direction, while Minister Bartlett and his team is going off to start to shape where the foundation is going to come from. Come to us in October, where you're starting from, and he has until January to have a full report for all of us to decide on. So he's taken up that position. I know he's capable of doing so. He has done much of the legwork already. And by January, we're going to be at World Roots, or American January, February, we intend to be at the Americas. And at that conference, we'll have a CTO membership meeting there. And I expect Minister Bartlett to be prepared and ready for us to make some decisions on where that will look like and give you guys an update.
I would assume you maybe would agree with me if you look at the current activities in the Caribbean. Minister Bartlett, of course, leading with Jamaica, but in Barbados, having similar ambitions, looking at what he said, emerging markets, looking at Africa, looking at the Middle East. Travelers from this market are different from travelers from the United States. A traveler from the United States is happy to go to the Cayman Islands or to Jamaica and stay there. A traveler who comes all the way from India through Dubai, or from Dubai, would probably wanted to see more from the Caribbean and combine it. It's not just giving your overflow to someone, it's combining the opportunities, what generates more tourists, right?
I think you've highlighted a very positive
Okay, just
point.
want to make sure I'm on the right track.
And you're right. These emerging markets haven't got the opportunity, like the Northern American market, the European market, to examine our beautiful region. And that's why going into these markets is going to give us such a great opportunity. These emerging markets are also coming from stronger economies. Look at Africa. Africa is growing. And I hate to say it, but I'm in the business of selling products, and they got money to consume. So that's what this is about. So we're not moving away from our traditional markets.
Exactly.
We're going to keep them, and we're going to appreciate what they have done. Minister Bartlett made a very important point in his media press briefing, which I think he should have done on the panel, which was the United States of America saved the region from collapse while every other country was closed due to COVID and refused to allow travel. The United States, whether you think it was stubborn or not, allowed their citizens to travel, and they kept many of the Caribbean countries' tourism product alive until we got past and understood what COVID meant from a safety perspective. And we owe them a lot. And we're committed to the Northern American market and the European market, because we've built those relationships over the decades as the Caribbean emerged as a tourism destination. But it's now to move into other markets to add more cream on the pie. Yes. All right, I think that is no more questions. I want to say to the media, you guys are so important. I don't know if you know, but I'm a former journalist myself, so I understand the value of you. And it was an honor on behalf of the good people of the Cayman Islands to host you. And I hope we can have another conference again in the future, so we can give it to you, another memory, another time, and hopefully the standard is so high nobody can beat us. God bless you.